Okay, we're going to start again because apparently I wasn't live. All right, the ABCs of mystery writing. Hi, my name is Claire Johnson, and I've written 2 mystery novels and 2 Jane Austen pastiches. I grew up on Dorothy L. Sayers, Agatha Christie, Raymond Chandler, and Dashiell Hammett, and Jane Austen. Odd bedfellows, I admit. Oh, are we starting again? Okay. ABCs of mystery writing. My name is Claire Johnson, and I've written 2 mystery novels and 2 Jane Austen pastiches. I grew up on Dorothy L. Sayers, Agatha Christie, Raymond Chandler, and Dashiell Hammett, and Jane Austen. Odd bedfellows, I admit. Today I'm going to present a brief primer on the ABCs of mystery writing that I hope will help you begin that mystery novel you want to write, or you've written already but you're struggling with it. First of all, I think that all books are mysteries in one way or another. Do Romeo and Juliet right off to the sunset? Shakespeare keeps us guessing for a while. Does Jane Eyre marry her Mr. Rochester? Yes, but not until God punishes him for the chutzpah thinking he can marry Jane while his crazy wife stomps around the attic playing with matches. Spoiler alert. So yes, I think that all books should keep you guessing. For the mystery, there should be a lot of guessing and a lot of suspense. Emphasis on suspense. Think about what you want to say. Pick an idea, a theme, something that has brought you joy or has enraged you. One of my favorite mystery writers is James Lee Burke. He has 2 main themes that carry through all his Dave Robicheaux books. The corruption endemic in Louisiana and the legacy of the Civil War. Another author worth checking out is Michael Connelly. He writes The Ultimate Police Procedure. The Harry Bosch books are about a man for whom justice is all, mostly because he's seen little justice in his own life. Pick something that means something to you, because the page written with enthusiasm will carry you a lot farther than the page written to satisfy what the market wants. Also, this part gets lost in the shuffle, but writing is supposed to be fun. Do you want a series, i.e. several books that span time with the same protagonists? A perfect example is the Dorothy L. Sayers mystery series featuring Lord Peter Wimsey or Chandler's Philip Marlowe. A standalone is a single story that is complete, say Gone Girl. Although I would put that more in the thriller category, it's an example of a book whose story does not move forward beyond one book. I would start off small with a standalone that could be extended into a series. If you're thinking of writing a series, note that there is a continuity issue with writing a series that you need to consider. Don't write out a character you may need in book 3. Choose your dead bodies carefully. What's the problem needing to be solved? There should be 2 problems. The problem of the whodunit and the internal demon facing your protagonist. Demon might be too strong a word for, say, a cozy mystery, but your protagonist should have an internal life that either hinders or helps him/her solve the mystery. In Miss Marple's case, she's an elderly woman whose biggest physical feat of the day is planting primroses, even though gardening is allegedly prohibited by her doctor due to her many mysterious illnesses. This is an example of a character issue that plays into the Christie plots. To get around this impediment, Miss Marple has minions to move the story forward, even though she's the one who always solves the mystery. Christie is a plot-based writer. Her characters tend to be moribund, but she fools us by having ingenious plots. While I'm a character-driven writer whose plots are ho-hum, but I fool you with having character studies and a judicious helping of tension. The best writers are those who have a seamless interface between these 2 elements. Use your plot mercilessly to move your character development forward. It can be something as simple as your character being afraid of spiders and having them go into a spider-infested attic to find a clue. Or a woman in an abusive marriage who is completely downtrodden but does incredibly brave things to prove her fist-wielding husband is guilty of murdering his mistress. Use your plot to make your character face their demons. Remember our Dave Robicheaux? His internal demon is that he's an alcoholic. Robicheaux's alcoholism is a major character in all of Burke's novels. In cozy mysteries, the demon aspect can be replaced by how the reader relates to your protagonist. Like they're afraid of the dentist, or they have a stupid case of eczema on their forehead that no amount of steroids will address, so that it looks like you're walking around with an ever-present case of forehead leprosy. These are issues I face, and if I saw these in a mystery novel, I would identify with the protagonist right off the bat. You should create vulnerability in your villains as well, otherwise they become cliché and cardboard. Vulnerability, relatability, or demons, your characters need depth. If you find your novel bogging down, make them move. I am serious. Make them walk, run, vacuum the house, or climb a tree to look into a window. I'm on the thing. In the movie Sex, Lives, and Videotapes, the protagonist discovers her husband is having an affair with her sister when she vacuums up an earring. That's some very angry vacuuming. These mundane tasks that affect a story's trajectory are simple events the reader can have a profound effect on the storyline, and yet one that we can all relate to. Most of us own vacuums. Can you relate to the anger in finding evidence of your husband's affair in your bedroom with your sister as you vacuum? I sure can. Physical action will immediately pick up the pace. Different scenario. What about the physically abusive wife who runs around the block because the thought that her husband might be a murderer is creating such mental chaos she needs to outrun those thoughts? Or our protagonist nearly falls out of a tree because he's spying on his neighbor who thinks he killed his wife. And Bob's your uncle tension on a platter. Remember star-crossed lovers, Romeo and Juliet? Shakespeare throws in some awesome sword fights, and the death of Mercutio at sword point seals their lover's fate. The tragedy of that play hinges on a sword fight. Another example is the Harry Potter series. Every book in the series spans a school year. The strength of this series is in the world building. We don't really have a ton of plot movement over the breadth of the series. Voldemort is trying to kill Harry, and yet we have those unbelievable Quidditch matches where several supporting plot points to the main plot arc are introduced. Brooms flying through the air. Is there anything more exciting? This brings us to, insert organ music of doom, the stakes. Every book must have stakes, something to gain and something to lose, something to prove, something to disprove. Rehabilitation at the cost of humiliation. Donald Moss, the guru of books about the craft of writing, stresses this over and over again. I would strongly recommend checking out his books. What are stakes? These can be large stakes on the national level, like a Senate Majority Leader being a total hypocrite in terms of rushing through a judicial appointment that only 4 years earlier he repudiated on record because he's a lying dirtbag, but is desperate to get a conservative on the Supreme Court. Said Senate Majority Leader is willing to sacrifice his integrity for that judicial appointment. Or stakes on a very personal level, where the abused wife who turned in her husband is abandoned by her children because her husband is now serving his sentence on death row. Pick a narrator. By that, I mean choose your point of view. Are you going to write in he said, she said, or are you going to write in first person point of view, i.e., reader, I married him? Writers tend to gravitate toward one or the other, although I will say there's a stupid and frankly ridiculous concept out there that writing in first person point of view is rudimentary writing. Raymond Chandler, I will defend you to the death. How close do you want to be to your protagonist? If you want very close, then choose first person point of view. It limits you in some ways because you can only write what your character sees. On the plus side, that can be a straight up path to tension because once you're in I, then the interpretation of the first person character can be erroneous without harming the integrity of the novel. I thought he was such a good guy because he brought me flowers. But in fact, he was a murdering psychopath who only brought me flowers because the knife he used to stab my roommate to death was hidden under the floor of my couch. I think the I construct tends to be more psychologically oriented because I is about being in your protagonist's head. But that theory gets totally shut out of the water by John le Carré in his George Smiley books. These books are probably the most psychologically in-depth books ever written in this genre, and they are written in a closed third-person point of view, which is a way of saying it's close to I, but there's still that distance. In closed third-person point of view, you are viewing your protagonist from above, using he or she as puppets as opposed to them being inside your head. Sometimes when a book isn't working, it's because the POV is wrong. What point of view do you like to read in? that might be a good clue to what point of view you should consider writing in. Pick up 4 mysteries by your favorite authors and tear these books apart to see how and why they work. Choose books with a variety of points of view, the I versus he or she, and see where the tension points are in the novel and how the author gets there. Questions to ask yourself. Is there foreshadowing? How do chapters start and end? This is crucial. What keeps you turning the page? I'm not a big Dan Brown fan, but his book, The Da Vinci Code, was an absolute masterpiece on how to create a page-turning novel, and not because of the plot, which I found a little fantastic and not in a good way, but because of the structure. Short chapters that always ended on a cliffhanger. Read these books as a roadmap for why this book works for you. Okay, moving on. To outline or not to outline? That is the question. This is where we dip our toes into plot. Every author I know has a different process for writing a book. Some are obsessive outliners, others write by the seat of their pants. I don't outline, but I always have a firm grasp on the story I want to tell, and the end is always written in stone. I have yet to change the ending of a book. I have a middle where the typical mystery has provided the reader with enough information to move towards the ending, at which point it should be lickety-split. Lickety-split race to find out who did it. My middles are squishy, erring on one side or the other, but they rarely change. They act as goalposts, so that I don't find myself at 90,000 words without having said much. Beginnings are hard. Start with anything. Believe me, you'll change your beginning at least once. Again, this is a process. Some of the best mystery writers just sit down and write it. It will come. Michael Connelly and Scott Turow, to name 2. Fellow writer Margaret Dumas doesn't do an outline so much as she creates a calendar and charts the key elements that need to happen. This will keep your writing focused. Don't be intimidated by the word outline. Plotting is just a fancy word for a timeline. How do I get from A to D and then from D to G? It's easy to become distracted by what I call the shiny. You love dogs and want them to figure in your novel. Fine, but this dog must serve plot points. Keep an eye on your key scenes, because if you don't, you will find yourself at 50,000 words, and 45 of them are singing the praises of golden retrievers. Not that they don't deserve these accolades, because they absolutely do, and they are the best dogs on the face of this earth. But keep asking yourself, how does the pure joy of a house full of Goldens serve your book? Bottom line, you need to discover the process that works best for you. Play around. Rigid outline, loose outline, no outline, timeline. You are master and commander here. My one caveat to this is that chapter 1 should begin with a ton of tension, like the kidnapping or a bomb going off or someone stalking someone. Because if you don't, an editor and agent will not move on to chapter 2 no matter how brilliant your writing. The days when we could take a leisurely stroll through the first 10,000 words of a novel are over. Stakes and tension are your besties. You've picked your voice, your protagonist, and you have a loose plot or theme. What else do you need? Passion. There are a lot of books out there on how to write a mystery. What is key is that the writer cares about what they're writing about. Wherever you take your story, make it important to you. In my first book, I wrote about the abuse suffered by undocumented immigrants working in kitchens. I was careful to make it integral to the plot and did my best to avoid climbing on a soapbox. If you don't care about what you're writing about, why should your characters care? You want passion on the page, and I don't mean sex scenes. Now we come to tension, the sister to stakes. You need tension on every page, or at least every other page. The easy way to create tension is by using sex and violence. Comedy can also create tension. If you're of a comedic bent, go for it. You can have emotional tension. Terse dialogue between two people where we are aware that something's going to happen, even if we don't have any clue as to what it will be. Or internal tension, a character making a hard choice or biting their lower lip to avoid saying something. What you want in your book is a series of highs and lows, with the highs getting higher as the book moves forward. It doesn't have to be grand tension, like someone running into a room wielding an axe. It can be simple. The protagonist can't pour herself a cup of coffee because her hand is shaking so badly. It can even be fake tension. In fact, that can be the best kind of tension. There's a thud. Is someone breaking and entering? As the protagonist prowls through the house with an enormous frying pan in his hand, he discovers that the noise, his enormously obese cat, he discovers that the noise was his enormously obese cat jumping down from the linen closet. What does this accomplish? It says that it could have been someone breaking and entering, and the second time he hears that sound, he ignores it. Except it's not his cat. My simple do's and don'ts. These are subjective because all reading is subjective, but these issues bug me. Do not write a book where the readers can't figure out the ending. You don't have to have a ton of clues, but you have to have one. Some successful authors get away with it, but I think that's cheating. If you've written a whodunit, then the reader is part of the game. To exclude them from the game is not fair, in my opinion. A thriller is different. It's not about clues. A thriller is bluntly about thrills. Don't write to titillate, i.e. don't kill pets and don't kill children. Several authors get away with this, but then I never buy their books again. You say, but stakes, Claire, stakes. Yes, the killing of a child is the ultimate stake. See subjective above. Tons of violence and sex is lazy writing. People make careers out of writing it. I don't buy their books. If you do, then you understand the appeal. This is a lot to chew on, but the key to writing a novel or a short story is learning how your brain works with words. This is a process. Some of us are blessed with the talent to write a book, and it's flat out brilliant the first go. We're just going to kill those people. The rest of us slog along, trying to find our voice, devise a plot that hangs together, and write a book that makes the reader turn page over page until they reach the end. I repeat, this is a process. Write a ton. Write letters to your kids, your grandmother. Write fan fiction, and I'm not kidding about that. Write 4 horrible novels, the likes of which will never get off your hard drive. The important lesson here is that if Shakespeare hogged all the plots, what he has no control over is how you present these plots. What we say is unique, and you need to find your unique way with words. Mysteries that have a distinct voice include anything written by Raymond Chandler and Dashiell Hammett. To bring this up to the 21st century, Tana French has distinctive voices in all her Murder Squad books. Some of her books are better than others, but the voice never falters. One of my current favorite authors is Adrian McGinty. He's written a number of books, but I love his Sean Duffy books, a police procedural set in Northern Ireland. My point is to find a book that sings to your ears and then dissect why it sings to you. Okay, our final point here is the most important point of all. I can learn grammar. I can hear the groans. The Blue Book of Grammar has a bunch of online quizzes. Take them. The book is good too. I can also recommend Patricia T. O'Connor's book on grammar. I have no problem using online grammar editors like ProWriting Aid or Grammarly. My personal fave is ProWriting Aid. It won't be a substitute for beefing up your knowledge of grammar, and it won't catch all of the glitches, but it will flag things that are your bugbears. ProWriting Aid has this neat feature whereby it flags to be constructions if you go over a certain amount, alerting you to the use of too much passive voice. It can also flag overused words. We all have bugbears, and the words we repeat a lot because we love them, and then we overuse them, and then they lose their power because they're only important with us and not anyone else. These programs have a bias, so be careful. They are mostly geared towards business writers, and they can sap the life out of your writing. The use of proper grammar provides you with some kick-ass bona fides. It says to agents and editors that you know what you're talking about and you're serious about your craft. You are not an amateur. This isn't a hobby. You've put time and energy into making your voice heard. And also, this is key. I can't stress this enough. Grammar provides the beat to your work. A period works differently than a semicolon that works differently from a colon. Your brain processes them differently. Those tiny stops and starts will add rhythm to your work. Do you want your novel to be a waltz or the flamenco? It will also give you the knowledge to break grammar rules, to say it the way you want to say it. The ultimate power trip. I hope this inspires you to hunker down at that keyboard, dive in, begin. And I apologize for the glitch in the presentation because you're looking at a Luddite. But if you want a hard copy of this list of ABCs, email me at Claire M. Johnson, that's one word, CLAIRE MJOHNSON @gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and start writing.